All right, so good morning for me and basically good afternoon for everybody in America. I'm so damn grateful I have my friend Khristee Rich here, and we've been talking back and forth in messages, and she has some exciting news to share. But first I want to ask her what I always ask people when I bring them onto the show. What is the greatest obstacle in your life so far, and how have you overcome it?
My greatest obstacle so far was with my chronic illness. So I had a debilitating chronic illness for 15 years. Unfortunately, it was misdiagnosed. I was first thought to be depressed instead of sick, and they wanted to put me on antidepressants, and I knew my body. I knew there was something physically wrong and that I wasn't depressed. There was no reason for me to be depressed. And so it took 15 years before I got the proper diagnosis. So during that time, yes, it was crazy. My doctors didn't believe that I was sick because I looked fine. I looked pretty much similar how I look today, maybe a little thinner, a little more pale, but I looked fine. And all of my blood tests came out fine. There was nothing wrong, nothing indicating any problem. So they thought I was depressed. They thought I was stressed. And I kept on going back again and again, asking, please, please run some more tests. And then they thought I was a hypochondriac. Yes, so I realized early on that I had to be my own health advocate, and I had to be diligent to make myself well. I went to the best doctors in New York City, the best doctors in Connecticut, but they couldn't help me. So that's when I started my healing journey, and I got into Reiki and shamanism to heal myself. I also started researching, really getting into alternative health and wellness for the first time, learning about supplements, learning about vitamins, learning about other healing modalities. And finally, at the end of 15 years, after much struggle, much struggle, I finally found a doctor who believed me that something was wrong, because I had detailed notes of every symptom, how it escalated, all the tests that I had run, everything. And he found out that I had extremely high levels of heavy metals in my blood. So the highest he had ever seen with any other patient. They were off the charts. And he said they were so high that I should have been paralyzed or had brain damage.
Wow.
Yeah. But I had been so proactive during that time to overcome my health that I got into eating better, eating organic, cut out the processed food, cut out the sugars, took vitamins, took supplements. And I believe because of that, I didn't suffer that fate.
Wow, that's mind-blowing to me. And
Yeah.
to think how heartbreaking would it be that you continuously having this internal problem that's going on and nobody's understanding you? Because I read a blog is how your mum didn't even understand. She was telling you to get out of bed. Like I know you moved back home with your mum and she's telling you to get out of bed because she couldn't see any physical symptoms. And the doctors were confirming like what she couldn't understand. So in saying that, I know I'm such a big believer of cause and effect, and that even though this stuff was going on, you took deliberate action in your own life and found a way. And that's why you're such a huge advocate about alternative health. And in saying that, also that what you found is the problems that you were having is such a universal thing as well.
Yeah, so very good point with my mother. So with my mother, she grew up with Western medicine. So when the doctor said that I was depressed, she believed the doctor over me, over her own daughter. So that was very, very hurtful for me that she didn't support me saying, okay, we're going to figure it out together. Let's figure it out. Instead, she's like, get up, get out of bed. Don't be lazy, get going. You're just depressed, snap out of it. And so again, I realized I had to become my own health advocate. So that's what I realized early on is that a lot of people, we grow up with believing that doctors have all the answers. We believe that we go to the doctor, they make us well. They give us some medication or they give us some advice. They give us some direction and we go with them. They are the experts. But I learned that doctors didn't take me seriously. And this is something that's universal that I think is happening, that a lot of women are treated differently than men when they're sick. And it's because people think women are emotional. So, oh, they're just being emotional. Oh, it's just all in their head. Oh, you're just being too sensitive. But really, we are struggling. We're having health conditions and doctors are just passing along saying, oh, just take this antidepressant, you'll be fine. When really I had liver toxicity. And that doesn't just go away over time. I had to have something in my body to chelate, to contact with the heavy metals to extract it out of my system. So luckily, this doctor who believed me told me, okay, well, you do have heavy metals. They're off the charts. I have to report you to the state of Connecticut as having been exposed to an environmental hazard. I became a statistic.
Yeah.
And he said it would take a full year, at least a full year, of going to a toxicologist once a week and having chelation therapy.
Wow. What I find really mind-blowing about it really resonates a conversation that my sister and I have all the time. And then it runs in parallels about yesterday being International Women's Day, and about how the medical profession is basically, and the outcomes that they have is because they studied men, not women, to find the answers of what a woman's body is. They didn't actually explore a woman's body. And so therefore, that's why they don't have an understanding of how women are. And that's why also that I'm glad we're having this conversation. There's so many women subjects that are taboo. And I know that one of your big advocates about is changing the mindset around childbirth and so forth. Like, I remember when my mum was growing up and we talk about childbirth, you just didn't. You shut it down because it'll turn you off. And I worked in a teaching before I became a mother, and so many women shut down the conversation. Like, they wouldn't talk to you about it, or they'd say, oh, it's painful, but you'll forget it as soon as you hold the baby. And but it's not even it comes across the whole spectrum of things. I remember even your menstrual cycle, you didn't tell your friends about the fact that you just got your menstruation, which is interesting because in certain Indigenous tribes and African tribes, they celebrate the fact that you've gone through your menstrual cycle and that you're coming into being a woman.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to write this book. So I'm writing this book about childbirth around the world, as you know, and you were one of the wonderful women who interviewed for it. Fabulous story. So can't wait to share that with everyone. So I realized very early. So I started working on this book in the summertime. So it was in June. I met with a friend who was pregnant at the time, and she was 50, having her first baby. And I was so excited to hear how she felt and how the pregnancy was going. And it was only about like a couple of months before she was going to give birth. So it was pretty soon. And she shared with me something that nobody had ever shared with me before, because again, like you said, women even today still aren't talking so openly about childbirth and behind the scenes what they go through. So in my grandmother's time, and of course my mother's time, they weren't talking about childbirth. It was a taboo subject. And oh, yes, it's painful, or oh, you'll know what it's like when you get there, but no real details, no real honest conversations. But I thought today with female empowerment that more women would be talking about it. But then I realized, you know what? Nobody talks about it with me, and I'm a woman. And so when she had this open conversation with me and she shared what she was going through, I said, wow, good thing you are an empowered woman, because someone else in your situation, they would have just gone with what the doctor had said, So then I said, wow, well, how common is this? Is this happening more than we realize because people aren't talking about it? And then that's what I found out, is that, yes, women aren't talking about what's going on because, one, there's shame. Women feel shamed, with themselves about their choices, but two, they feel shame from other women. And then there's also women who are spreading a lot of horror stories and a lot of gossip and really trying to convince women to make certain decisions that may not align with them. So this is not empowering at all. Instead, women are hiding. Women are not openly discussing something that is so, important for our society. Wow. We must give birth. We must have babies. We must learn from each other. Otherwise, how will we know? How will we know if we've never had a child before, what to experience and how to make the best birth possible for us and for our child, the best safe birth. So I wanted to write this book to really help to empower women around childbirth, and not just here in the US, but all around the world, because that's something else I discovered, is that here in the United States, mothers assume that childbirth is the same all around the world, but it's not. It's not at all. And there's a lot of myths. And that's also what I want to dispel in my book, is that there's a myth that all around Europe, childbirth is the same. And that's not true either. And of course, it's very different in Asian cultures and African cultures. So I really wanted to unify women. In the age of female empowerment, I wanted to unify women because I realized there's this one topic that women are still divided, and that's childbirth. So if we can empower women about childbirth, if we can educate them what's going on around the world so they feel they're not alone, then we can create so much magic.
Oh, and you're giving me bliss bumps, like as you're talking to me, like bliss bumps, because it's a game changer. Like, I don't know how I brought into this because I'm one of 5 girls, but it's about, I was always in competition with women. I never thought about it with men. That was this ridiculous competition, and how, like, it's a scarcity mindset rather than an abundance mindset, that there isn't enough, that we have to be in competition for men or jobs and this and that. But the only thing, and I know this is a huge premise of yours, is the only way we women can rise is together, not isolated. It's the only way. And it's funny because even growing up, I know, you know, my sisters and I had squabble with each other, of course. But if anybody turned on one of my sisters, bang, I was there by her side. It wasn't just me. It was like the whole 5 of us unified. And it's still the same as adults. But it's so sad that we've, you know, brought into this. How does my husband always puts it? He's like, he talks about, he's such a skeptical person and stuff, but he's like, management comes in and divides and conquers, like they isolate you. And and that's what's probably happened in, you know, culturally. We've gone from an age where it was all about femininity and a matriarch society, like about women, and there's still cultures throughout the world you see that the woman's in charge. But then when it turned into a patriarch society, I suspect rumors came into play, or we were depressed, and that women are now starting to realize, like you've noticed, that it's together we are. And I'm so damn grateful that you're writing this book, and I'm glad you talked about shame, because I remember after I had my son, there was a young girl that came and visit me. She's my niece, and she was 18 at the time, and her mother, this is on Frank's side, was mortified that I actually turned around and told her about the process. And I had extensive amount of stitches as well. So I couldn't even sit down. And that was because I couldn't relax through the process. And we've spoken about this. And so it was my own doing, but she was mortified that I would have a conversation with her. And I actually turned around and said to her, Mum, it's the truth. You know, this is what happened with me. I'm not going to shut down what's happened, because nobody educated me about, well, you know, it's about relaxing your body and trusting your body. Nobody ever had that conversation. So it comes down to the fact that I'm so damn grateful that you're writing this book, because it's removing so much shame around childbirth, and that we carry that shame, and people don't understand that shame is passed on to our children without us being aware of that. We're passing it on to them as well.
Yes. And that's what I was most amazed by, is there's so much shame that women feel. And it's not just about not having a natural childbirth, having a medicated birth. That's something that's common, but it's across the board, everything. It's shame of breastfeeding in public if people have a problem with it. It's shame of easily conceiving. You would think that that would be cause for celebration, but for some people, they conceive, they're like, oh my God, I have the shame because it was hard for you, and I should feel bad because it was easy for me. You know, so there's shame about everything, about having a good, easy childbirth. There's shame on that. So I really want to just shed the light on it and show all these different experiences. So with my research and interviewing women, I interviewed over 60 women, mothers and experts on childbirth around the world. And the stories were so diverse, just so diverse. So that was just, you know, divine intervention, showing me all these different stories, so people can then see themselves in the stories. The readers can say, oh, that's me. Oh, wow, I had no idea anybody felt that way or went through that experience too.
I love that you said that, because I conceive so easily. I absolutely conceive so easily. And there's like this internal shame because there was members in my family that weren't able to conceive over a certain period of time, or I had friends that were trying to do it. And because my husband and I were like just straight away, like I was meant to, I internalized it as shame. Like, it's crazy that I did that, like to fit in, like that fitting in to make sure. And the
you want everyone to like you.
And you talk about the breastfeeding, like the breastfeeding just blew my mind away. I remember there was people that would make comments to me, and there were people that loved it, and there was people that didn't like it, and people are telling me that I should be stopping because it's at this certain age and that it's time I finish. But it's good that you talk about it, because I think there's a huge reflection upon the fact is that I think other people have made them feel ashamed, and so we pass that shame on. Like it's just, and you're breaking those
acceptable
paradigms.
To tell people what to do instead of letting them be empowered and making their own decisions. So it's this whole cycle, like you had mentioned earlier on. It's like the patriarchy happened. Men are in power over women, and then they decided, okay, well, we would like you to have your child in the hospital. No more having them at home. We would like to be the ones to deliver the baby, not a woman. We want a man to deliver the baby. We want to be the one. And so right away, the pattern of disempowerment of women, disempowering them during their most vulnerable, special time during childbirth. And then from that, then a lot of women believed, okay, well, hospital births are the best way. And some men still today believe it's not safe to have a home birth. So this is something that came up again and again with my interviews. So many women wanted to have a home birth, but their husbands, they were afraid that they wouldn't be safe. So then they chose to have a hospital birth, and then they regretted it because they didn't have a good experience. They didn't have the experience that they wanted if they had had it at home. So again, I want to share with people that it is safe to have home births. It's just we've been conditioned to believe by the past, by society, that it is the man who should be there to help the woman. It has to be an expert, has to be a doctor. And then what has happened is that people believe that, and all of this gossip and belief systems, even though they're not necessarily facts, have been passed down until women are now against each other.
Wow. You're just like explaining how the reason why we act the way we do, like we've been taken away our own rights to give birth to children. So no wonder women are feeling disempowered and still feeling disempowered, because the fact is we've taken away the one thing that we know how to do organically within ourselves, but we're being told that this is how it should be. And it's funny because my husband was the same. I wanted to have a childbirth at home, but the hospital, because here in Australia we go through midwifery, like we go and see a midwifery. The midwife wouldn't allow me to have it unless my husband agreed. That we have to have two people that are agreeing, which I understand, but my husband had so much fear, like you're just saying, and it comes, I'll come back to the point I was making. No wonder we feel so disempowered as women if we're being taken away what our that's our primary function. I know people think, oh no, but if we think about us as an animal species, every other animal is to reproduce. Like it's basically to reproduce. And if we can't do what we're meant to do organically, what comes to us, no wonder we're bickering amongst ourselves and also feeling disempowered.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great shame. So through my book, I'm going to change all that. I'm going to empower women. I'm going to have us rise up and have clarity and have an open conversation. I really want to encourage women to have an open conversation, not to criticize and judge each other or shame each other, but to really listen with empathy and compassion, to hear the other woman's story, and then to share your story.
And then like with what you're sharing, I love it. I just am so excited. And what is that the fact is I can hear my story and what you're sharing right now. And it's just so powerful that you're putting a voice to it. I absolutely just love it. Like, it's just like, I feel like all this weight has been lifted off me because, and in saying that, I'm excited. Like when my body chooses to become pregnant with my second child, I just can't wait to read this perspective, because one of my friends I introduced to, Khristee, she had like this, we live in the same town, and she had a completely different experience. She had 2 kids that were orgasmic births. Like, what? It's like this woman. And that's why it's so exciting that I live in the same freaking city, but she has a different perspective of birth and just loved it. And she's like, I'll have another one, no worries.
Yes. And more women need to hear the positive stories. There's just so much fear being passed instead of the positive, empowering stories.
And I think that translates all across life. And I'm so glad that we talked about what happened with you, the high metal poisonings, and how you found your love of healing.
Oh, and I did conquer that. I don't know if I mentioned that.
No, let's go back to that, because let's go back to that, because I was just so excited by something else. But Yes, let's talk about how you conquered it, because I love that you found alternative medicine. And not that I'm actually telling anybody that you shouldn't go to a doctor, but there is many people out there that, like you shared, that you would go to a doctor and they didn't get them, like didn't understand what was going on, and being told that, well, it's this and this, but it actually wasn't this.
Yeah,
So
they weren't listening. They weren't listening to me, and they weren't respecting me as a woman. They were just
Mm,
kind of saying, casting me off, say, oh no, it's just this, just take this and just give into it.
mm,
So what I believe now with my experience is that you really need to get to the root cause, and that's how you overcome an illness. So with my situation, they were just addressing the symptoms. They were just saying, oh, okay, you've got a really bad upset stomach. Here, take this medicine. You probably have acid reflux. Oh, you have migraines? Okay, here, take this migraine medicine. Oh, okay, you have bad acne? Here, take this medicine. So it's all about the symptoms, not about the whole story. But with holistic health and wellness, it's all about mind, body, and spirit. So Western medicine is about the physical body, the physical symptoms, but in holistic health and wellness, you also add the emotional aspect. So how was the person feeling when they became ill? What was happening around that time? And then also the spiritual life. Does the person feel uplifted, that they have support, or do they feel like the world is on their shoulders? They have to do everything on their own and they don't trust the universe anymore. So it's very important to take in account all three and to get to the root cause. So for me, once I found the doctor who believed me and got to the root cause that it was heavy metal toxicity, both lead and mercury, off the charts, then I knew I had to get the heavy metals out. So they recommended doing chelation therapy for a year or longer. And I did research because during that time I was sick of 15 years, I became a big researcher. And I found out that chelation therapy has one of the few substances that passes between the blood-brain barrier. So that means that you can get the medicine into your brain and then have disastrous side effects, such as, again, brain damage, paralysis, and even death. So once I found out that my cure could kill me, I said no. I said, you've got to be kidding me. That doesn't work for me. So then I said, I am going to heal myself. You know, also it was very painful too. And I don't do well with pain. So it was very costly, very painful. It could kill me or have disastrous side effects that were worse than the 15 years of being sick. So then I went online, I found out there was natural food and supplements that I could take without any side effects, and that I could implement them right away, and they would extract the heavy metals out of my system. So I started eating these natural foods, taking these supplements every single day. I was very diligent. And then for the first time ever, I started meditating. I'd never meditated before, and I meditated for twice a day, 20 minutes. And just cleared my mind, went out for a little walk. I was very, very weak and lethargic, but I went on a little walk with my dogs, just back and forth, my little cul-de-sac, and told myself every day that in 1 month, I would be well. So I was committed. I'm like, I've been sick for 15 years. Let's get this out of my system in 1 month. I'm gonna be well in 1 month. I just know it. So I just told myself that. And they were testing my blood. They were extracting blood every 3 to 4 days because my levels were so high, and they wanted to make sure they weren't continuing to go up. And then the levels were going down. So as I kept on eating these foods and supplements and telling myself, oh, you're going to be healthy in 1 month. At the end of the month, they tested my blood and it was 0.
Wow.
0. So I healed myself in 1 month, 100% naturally, without taking any of the medication that they said I needed to take. That was the only cure, the only treatment that I could take.
Oh my God, I love that. And I also love the fact that you're bringing to people's attention. I didn't know this. Like I watched a documentary about the chemical composition of drugs, and basically they're deprived from carpet glues and like weird substances. Like that's aspirin, like it's carpet glue. And so we don't know the chemical composition of things. And what I found really interesting is that our generation and below research and decide, okay, what's alternative? I don't know if I want to take this medication. But I do believe that what killed Frank's mum in the end was she had pancreatic cancer, is because she took medication for reflux. She took it for over 10 years and didn't even look at the side effects. Like they're too busy listening to the prescription of what the doctor gave them, and didn't realize that there are ways our ancestors healed what themselves in a way without this medication. And it's really powerful to hear that even in 1 month, that they told you something was going to take 1 year and that you were able to do it in 1 month. And it was about organic things, but also I believe in such a big way, and you must have to agree that it's about the body and mind connection too. Because
Yes,
when you get your
absolutely.
body and mind working together, anything
Yes.
can happen. And even comes back to how we're talking about my friend Khristee. She had this amazing experience because her body and mind was working together.
Body, mind, and spirit too, all
Yes.
together. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Geez, I just is like, you pull it out like things out of your magic bag that I didn't even see. This is like awesome. Absolutely awesome. And what I wanted to talk about too is, let's have a look at this. Oh, in saying this, it comes across. What I found so amazing about that is that when every woman who heals herself, heals all the women that came before her and all the people who came after her. And I've been working on, like we were talking about the mind, body, and spirituality. That's 3 aspects I've been working on. And I have seen the difference within my own mother and my sisters as well. And I'd love for you to elaborate on how, when we work on ourselves, particularly women, of how it heals the lineage of those before us and those that come after.
Yes. So as you know, we had Women's International Day yesterday, and I think you saw that I posted that quote. And so it is all about that. It is all about healing ourselves so that we can heal our past, our ancestors, our whole family lineage, and also all of the children, all of our future generation to come. So it's very, very important that you stop and set the time for your self-care and your self-healing. It's not selfish, it's actually self-love. And it's actually going to then help others, future generations, and all of society. Okay, so we really have to take responsibility for that. And once we do, it is very powerful. So that's also something I'm doing with this new book that I'm writing, is that I am really creating the foundation for us to look at what happened in the past, because my book is from the last 75 years of childbirth around the world. I started with my grandmother, who gave birth 75 years ago. She's going to be 99 in May. So she had her first child in the 40s, and up until just having given birth a few months ago. So in the book, you're able to see how women have struggled and how it has changed, but also what we can learn from others' experiences so that we don't continue the same pattern, so that we can heal ourselves or do what's best for ourselves and for our children. So then it helps them going forward.
I love that, because there's such a concept around, and I know I brought into that, I'm a better mum because I put everybody else before my own needs. Yes. Like I used to think that that's how it was. And I remember watching the Oprah Winfrey show when I was a kid, and a psychologist said something to them like similar to that. And everybody in the audience booed her, like all the women. Absolutely. And this was like when I was a kid. So this is like 30 years ago. I remember them like just booing her. But 10 months ago, I put into principle what you're just saying right now. And I'm a better mum because of that. And what I found really scary is recently I learned that because of my son's from 0 to 8 in his subconscious mind, he's mirroring how he navigates the world. And that's why so many of us catch us doing things and go, oh God, my mum and dad do that. And without us consciously being aware that we do the behaviors. And I'm realizing that if I don't apply self-love for myself, my son is actually going to do the same as well. And for us to be a great human being, doesn't matter if it's a parent or if it's about how we interact with other people, it all comes down to self-love. Like people don't even understand our relationships. So not just the relationships with people, our relationships with money, our career, our health, everything comes down to that factor of self-love.
Yes, healthy boundaries, absolutely.
Boundaries too. Oh my God, boundaries. Like since I started applying that, the boundaries that even say no, like about how healthy it is to turn around and say to somebody no, because I always used to say yes to things that I didn't even want to say yes to.
Yes, I know. We're trained to do that as women. We're trained to be the caregivers, give everything of ourselves to our children, to our parents, to our friends, to everyone. But again, that's disempowering because it's saying everyone else is more important than ourselves. And that's not a good message for us. So now it really is a time for female empowerment, for women to say, it is important for my self-care. It is important for me to set my boundaries. It is important to put myself first so that I can then take care of my child. You know, the whole
Yeah.
airplane analogy, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before putting it on your child. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're allowing yourself to get burnt out and sick, then you're not going to be able to take care of your child, and they're not going to be able to take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm. I
Right?
love that you say that. And it's funny, my epiphany came on the plane when they
Oh,
told
really?
me to put to put the mask on my son, because I've been putting it on everybody else and not myself.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was so true. And this is what probably want to do a call out to women out there. Don't judge other women that are, like, I see that, and I know that I get judgment too, is about the fact that I put myself first, like at that, and before my son. And I really wanted to say to women that we shouldn't be judging one another for the choices that we make, because we're doing, like, as mums and as women, the best we can with the cards that have been given to us. And when we know better, we do better. But I feel like we're talking about how that we're in competition, and that's disempowering, and we've got to rise together. But it's also about, I love that we're talking about women empowerment, is that we can't judge other people. And it's not even just that, we're all doing the best that we can in this day and age where you would know that life is much busier. Like you talk to your grandmother versus to what life is today. Life is so much busier to what they were. And everybody's trying to do the best that they can with what is given to them.
Yes, yes. So much I want to say. Such a great conversation. So one other question you had was, again, how do we impact the future generations?
Yes.
So for instance, for me, if I hadn't healed myself from the heavy metals, if I hadn't healed my liver, so it was really a problem with my liver not being able to filter out the heavy metals, liver toxicity, then that would have passed on to my children. If I had children, then they would have had liver issues. Okay, so that's genetics. They would have had problems, you know, digesting food and all of this stuff. It would have been passed down, and it probably wouldn't have been discovered until they were much older. And so that really would have hindered them as well. And that's what I believe with a lot of illnesses, such as celiac disease. I really believe that it started when somebody was, well, I have many beliefs about that, but I believe that probably the person was allergic to wheat and they really suppressed it. They just said, oh, no, it's fine. I don't really know about allergies and how much they impact me. It's not like my throat is closing up and I can't breathe, but it's just, yeah, I get a little itchy, whatever. And so then it keeps on getting passed down by generation that the kids are eating gluten. They're not knowing that they're allergic to it. And so it becomes worse and worse as time goes on. If the person who first had the allergy doesn't say, okay, I've got to stop eating this now.
Wow.
And it may also be pesticides that are added to our crops too. That's another belief of mine. So again, with the liver toxicity.
Yeah, because we're talking about, that's something I wanted to talk about, is the importance of a healthy and functioning liver. People, we underestimate the importance of our liver. We think about our heart, our lungs, but our liver is very important for our health.
I believe it's the most important. I believe it's really not understood how important it is. And I am finding that more and more people, if they heal their liver, then all the other symptoms seem to go away. Or they improve their health so much that then if they take vitamins, then they feel so much more energized. So people need to honor that liver. That liver, it's very important, has many different roles. It helps with our immune system. It helps us to digest our food. It helps to filter out chemicals and toxins. It helps with so much, helps with the blood flow. So we really shouldn't underestimate all that it does. It does so much, so much. It can even regenerate itself. That's how powerful it is. So
I can tell you about the power of it. I didn't mean to jump on it. One of my friends had liver cancer. He was diagnosed with his liver and he changed his whole perspective of life. He was told that he was terminal. He couldn't. And it was about self-healing. He did the Western way as well, but really focused on love and laughter. They cut out 2/3 of his liver for it. And because he changed his whole perspective, his health and his eating, the liver actually regenerated its entire self. Like they said that they hadn't seen it, and his whole life changed. Like he didn't even realize his emotions were tied up in the health of his liver.
Yes,
like
they
he
are.
became a different person.
Yes. So the liver holds anger. So people that have
Wow.
anger problems, they probably have a toxic liver. They need to get rid of all these medications that they've been taking over the years, or alcohol, or whatever they've been doing. So once you do that, then you're going to feel lighter, then you're going to feel happier, then you're going to
Wow.
feel more joyful. And that's what happened to me too. So once I cleared out everything from my system, then I was so happy. I'm like, I'm moving to California. I feel good. Let's go have some fun.
I love that, because in the States it's so different, isn't it? You be from West Coast or North Coast, north to west, and
Oh,
how the whole energy and
very.
vibration changes. It's like I love it's the same here in Australia, from the bottom where I live up to Queensland, like a different type of energy and perspective of life.
Yes,
But they're both great in their own unique ways. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So absolutely. It's again the mind, body, spirit connection. And people don't realize that. They don't realize that their organs hold emotions.
Wow. And it makes so much sense, though. It absolutely makes so much. And I know that there's scientific proof to even support that fact, that certain
Yeah.
cancers come down to the fact of holding on to anger or repressing feelings and so forth. And just mind blowing is that I'm just so grateful we're having this conversation, because we do need to get our emotions out. People don't understand. We're not meant to store them
Yes.
within our body and hold them onto them. And I can't remember what I went to, but like it was can't remember the particular method, but it talks about crying and the benefit of crying. People tend to run away from crying,
Yes.
but crying is a release.
It's a
Like it
release.
absolutely, our bodies to release emotions. Or if you watch young children, they shake, like when they've gone through a heightened response.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like if you watch animals, like an antelope's been chased by a lion and it survives, afterwards its body shakes because it takes away the fight and flight symptoms.
Mm,
The body's shaking to remove the hormones that are sitting in the body. And we
mm,
used to do that. Like if you watch somebody that's anxious and they start bouncing their legs or their hands bouncing, it's because their body's trying to take out the energy. And crying's the same form, but
yeah,
because we're
it's a
being
release.
conditioned by society that we're not meant to do those sorts of things, like this social conditioning that it's abnormal to do that, or it's abnormal to cry in
Yeah,
public.
you
That
got to
we
be strong instead. Don't cry. Be
yeah,
strong. Be a big girl. That's what people used to say. Be a big girl. Don't cry. Yeah,
absolutely.
it's amazing. So absolutely. So again, that's what I do with my clients. I help them to
Mm,
express their emotions, to express their truth, to express their voice. And
mm,
also through this book, I'm doing the same thing, really allowing women to express their truth, express their voice, not to feel they have to suppress anything or hide any emotions, but really just let it out, let it out. And then, so many of them afterwards were like, wow, I've never shared my whole story like that. Now I feel
wow.
so good. I was cathartic, or now I see myself differently. I
Mm,
see how I have transformed. So, thank you for giving me this gift to see what a powerful woman I am, and how
mm,
much I've gone through. I didn't see it with those eyes before.
I
So
love it.
that's what happened. Yeah.
And there's something else I wanted to talk about, and hope we don't jump into it, is that today is your launch of your blog.
Yes, yes. I'm
Yes,
so
and
excited.
I'm
Yes, thank you.
I'm so excited as well, because I know that it's been a build up to this, and it's just so good to have a woman that's talking about women's issues, and then I
Mm,
put in the call to action that I've got in here for people to invite themselves, about that they have to watch your face, like know who you are, because you are changing the paradigm of how things
mm.
are, and it's exciting that you're giving a voice to so many things that we don't openly discuss.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, so I'm very excited. My blog has launched today. It's out in the world. So it's called Mum's the Word, Mothers Speaking Out About Childbirth Around the World.
Mm.
So it's an extension of my book. It's not cookie cutter the same. So it is a little bit different. It will be providing more tips and advice, and just opening up the conversation so we can start to talk among women openly and honestly about our experiences. And I know we're going to share the links, so we'll have that up in a minute. But yeah, I'm super excited. Again, you're right. It's been a long time coming, from doing all the interviews, working on my book, and now doing this blog. But I'm super excited that now it's live, it's out there.
I'm super excited too, because I know how hard that you work. Like, I don't like to say that work hard, but you're so passionate. No,
Yeah,
and because of that passion, it's not hard, but it's the way that
it's fun. Yes.
it's fun, absolutely. And that's what I think I'm excited about more than anything else, is that I know how thorough that you know the subject, and then how you talk to many women, like absolutely hearing other, and that it's not only just you contributing into it, it's so many other women that are as well. Like, and I highly recommend, I know that you're writing your book and so forth, but for any woman that comes into, to come into this community of people that are there having conversations, because people always ask me, why are you so open with your life? Like, I'm so open and share everything, but it's cathartic. You're just talking about it then, is that particularly like for about like something I shared 3 or 4 weeks ago. I can't even remember, because about what happened with my body chose to miscarry the second child I was carrying. As soon as I wrote it and put it out there and had it witnessed, like, it is so powerful to have your experience witnessed by other women, and other women coming forward and discussing about their experiences. One, it allowed me to shift what I was carrying, but two, it also gave me faith in the fact that it's going to turn out all right the second time. And that's why I'm excited about your book, is because I have faith in the fact that my experience in the first time is going to be completely different than what my first experience was, because you're having conversations that people are too afraid to have.
Yes. And I think it's really good that it was a good experience for you to share, and that you were supported by your friends and community. But a lot of people who do share on Facebook about private things, again, they're shamed. They get a lot of haters, they get a lot of bullying. So people need to be very careful with sharing if they're not feeling already supported on Facebook or wherever they are sharing. So with my blog, I'm going to be really making sure that I create a safe space where women can feel supported, and that I don't allow any shaming. I don't allow any bullying or criticizing, and I will monitor those comments to make sure that doesn't happen. And I've set my rules of how this is a high vibe, positive space, and not to spread negativity, so that we can have that conversation.
I love it, because one, I know that you're not going to get people that think a different way, because it's based on the energy that you put into the world. Like, and honestly, I such a big degree in that, believer in that, is what you put out is what you get in return. And that's what I'm to say, is that something I want to talk about, is that I found on one of your pages, where when we believe in what we deserve, we attract circumstances and events that surpass our expectations. And I suspect your experience with the book has been the same as well, is that you believed in creating your book, and it attracted circumstances. And what I mean by that is amazing women and health professionals coming forward that surpassed what you expected, who you would.
Absolutely. I started with this big dream and vision, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the right women came to me, the women who were so enthusiastic to share their story, they came to me. I didn't have to really seek them out. I asked a few friends, people that I knew, but then they all started coming in. And the experts who I interviewed, again, such honesty and candor that just blew me away. So a lot of them talked about women's rights, that women's rights are being taken away during childbirth. And that's, again, something I think a lot of people are not aware of, and they need to be aware of what's going on around the world. So yes, absolutely. It's like I became so excited that I became this magnet of something bigger than I ever dreamed of. And because I was so open-minded, because I didn't have a set agenda, this book is going to be about this, and this is what we're going to talk about, that more and more amazing experiences came to me. I'm like, women need to know about this. This is an amazing story too. So I think if you're open-minded, then the right messages will come through that need to be heard by the readers, need to be read. So that has just been absolutely beautiful and amazing.
I love that fact. And you bring up openness. It's probably one of my biggest problems growing up, with certain things that I wanted certain things to happen and track them, but it was only on a certain agenda or a set timeline, or it had to be a certain way. But what you're saying is that you're open and receptive for whatever came your way.
Yes, and it completely went in a different way than I thought it would.
Wow.
I mean, it really did. And I was like, wow, I don't think my book is going this way. And then more and more people came with similar stories. I'm like, yes, it is. This needs to be heard. People need to know about it. Yes,
and you didn't fight it.
No, I didn't fight it. I'm like, okay, so here we go.
Good.
Right.
It's so because I know my earlier years were based on the fact that I would fight them, rather than surrender. But you're surrendering to the process. But I've come to find that my greatest lessons come from surrendering and going to the parts that are uncomfortable, like that you think, oh, this is not how I want it to be. But no, you've got to go with the flow. But it's going with the flow of river than trying to stream like to row
Yeah.
upstream. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's it. If you come with a pure, open heart, if you don't come with an ego saying, this is my book, this is my project, it's all about me, and showing how good I am. But if you say, no, this is bigger than me, this is about female empowerment around the world, unifying mothers all around the world about childbirth, then it became bigger than me. And it had to be these other ideas coming in that I didn't even know about, that I didn't even know were happening. Yes.
And I love it because I didn't honestly realize until I just spoken to you today about it being women's empowerment, like being in the room and having the rights of what you want, or not even being in the room. Like, I'm not, my husband's going to be cut. No, we're having it at home. This is how I want to have my second child. I want to have this experience. And I'm choosing it to have it my way and being empowered by it and having my rights, because it is an experience. My experience, like strapped, I wasn't strapped down, but I felt like I was strapped to a situation that I didn't want to do, you know?
Yeah.
And if I could relax into what I wanted, I suspect the experience would be so completely. But what I'm saying is that really it's stripping away my rights at the core as a woman, like my absolute rights. And I wouldn't have known that without speaking to you today.
Good. Wonderful.
I love it.
This book is going to just blow people's mind. Just so many revelations, and even the blog too. The blog is just going to unify us and start great conversations. And I will be introducing all the women that I interviewed. So it's going to be really amazing.
This is awesome. So on that note, because we've been almost talking for an hour, I just love it. And it just time flies.
You can go on and on.
Good cruise. So let's talk about these things. So logistically, I'd love for you to share if people wants to work with you, 1, as a healer, 2, about the blog, and 3, even in regards of how they can monitor when the book is coming out, or where they can find more information about the book, so that you can keep us really, how can you say, in information. Yeah.
Okay. See if I can remember all of that in order. So if anybody would like to work with me, you're welcome to. I do virtual sessions. I am here in Ridgefield, Connecticut. If you happen to be in my neighborhood, definitely come in person and see me live. So in order to do that, you can send me an email at Khristee@thedancingcurtain.com. If you want more information about my services and how I work, you can go to my website. It's www.thedancingcurtain.com. And I offer one-on-one sessions. I really help women to conquer chronic illness and chronic health conditions naturally, easily, and joyfully. I'm all about female empowerment and helping women to speak their voice, speak their truth, and to stop hiding and to shine their beautiful light. So we can work one-on-one, again, in person or virtually. I do have sessions that are a little bit longer if you do have a chronic health condition. If you're just looking for a little energetic boost, just a little bit of, more joy in your life, then that would be a little bit shorter. And now I also have a new service for busy moms, because I know moms do not have as much time, but they still need self-care and healing. So I'm just about to launch a new group virtual healing program that will start this month, and then will continue once a month. So if you don't have the time, then you can receive the healing virtually. You set your intention. I also set a group intention, and you just close your eyes and receive. Or I can send it to you while you're sleeping. Again, even if you're asleep, you're still receiving the energy. And then the next day, I will share my clairvoyant visions with you, and insights, and recommended action steps. And so that's very easy. All you have to do is receive and listen to the recording later. And so those are the best ways to work with me. I also do workshops here in Ridgefield, Connecticut. I will be getting out and doing more in other cities coming up soon. I hope to do some in New York City this summer. So that's my goal, is to have more live in-person workshops all around the world, and to do public speaking. Let's see, you also asked about my blog. So we'll put the link for the blog up. I will be posting a couple times a week. In order to get weekly updates, you can join my list. So that's www.thedancingcurtain.com/free gift. So when you sign up, not only do you get weekly updates of the blog, but you also get a free gift. So that free gift is specifically for empaths, those who have extreme empathy and sensitivity for others, to learn how to protect themselves, to protect their energy. So it will give 7 tips to protect your energy so that you stay high vibe. And let's see, what was your other question?
About the future release date of your book. So,
Oh, right.
or how they
Right.
can
So,
monitor that.
right. So I am going the traditional publishing route. So that takes a bit longer, but I've decided to go that route because I really want as many women to be able to read this book as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I really want it to go big because I believe its message is big and it needs to be read by more women.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I am still in the process of looking for a publisher. I do not have one yet, but I am looking for an agent and a publisher. So the best way to find out about the launch date for that would be to, again, join my list.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it is about to be launched, you will be notified.
Of course. And the blog as well. I suspect there'd be a lot of that in the blog. And that what you said that you're going to get the over 60 people that helped you write the book in respects of their experiences to be sharing, so that you'll get little insights and pockets into what the book's about.
Over 60 women, both mothers and experts, were interviewed for the book. And then I will be, introducing them on my blog as well. So you get a chance to meet them. You'll see photos of them. You'll get a little bit of their stories. So it's really going to make you excited to read this book because you're already going to know these women and want to know more, want to know the full story about their childbirth experiences.